Hi, Stronger Faith. So I have been moved to tell my story. I just wanted to reach out and let you know because I feel as though God is putting it on my heart to share it with everyone I can. It's quite an interesting story, and I'm going to try and tell you everything I can in 10 minutes, but there is absolutely no way that I can contain everything within 10 minutes. And I hope you don't mind my dog chewing a bone right next to me. That is what that sound is. She's quite cute. Anyways, okay. So, I was born and raised in a small town called Ortonville, Michigan, where I now live. I grew up in a house that was built in 1897, and it was very haunted. When I say haunted, I mean we would hear noises all the time. We would see figures going around the corners. The animals would see it too and all stare at it at the same time. It was pretty creepy, and that was most of my childhood. I even had kids and friends not want to come over, especially stay the night, because there was things that go bump in the night. I was also raised Catholic, pretty strict Catholic, and that was a very interesting foundation to have, and I'm very grateful for it today. So I was raised in the faith, and Catholicism very much recognizes the spiritual world, which is a huge blessing. To top that off, my mother always loved horror movies. Oh my goodness, that's what she always wanted to watch. So we were watching tons of horror movies, and so got to a point where not a whole lot scared me. I would play outside a lot. We had 6 acres and horses. I rode horses when I was younger, always getting into every kind of activity I could. Some of these parts are going to be a little vulnerable, but I'm ready to tell my story. So my parents, they started, kind of not getting along and arguing. And that's when I started looking at my self-worth in a pretty dim light. I was harming myself. I was cutting my wrists. I hate admitting that one, but it's true. It's what I went through. I also went through a series of eating disorders, and that was, it was just a lot of self-hatred and wondering why I was alive and why I was living and what's my purpose, and I was just really unhappy. So, by high school, that's when I started drinking a lot and partying and just trying to escape and just get away from life. When I was 14, also, I was thrown from my horse, and that was a really big pivot point because I was hurt, and after that, that was tough. I still have some back issues today, but I was also a cheerleader, and so in high school, I was partying a lot, and at 17 years old, my parents divorced, and that was really hard on the family. It was really, really hard, especially because financially, they couldn't move apart for a whole year. So they were divorced, but living in the same house for a whole year. And if you have any idea what that can do to the children, it's just, it was hard. It was really hard. I'm going to try not to go too deep into each subject so I can cover it all. So after they divorced, I graduated, and immediately I was accepted into the Illinois Institute of Art Chicago, and I'm like, bye, let's go. So I moved to Chicago in 2008, and I was ready to go to art school. I was like, let's go. And Chicago was, I thought, going to be a fresh new chapter for me, but instead it was like the valley of the shadows. I went through a lot in Chicago, and I know we're already at 6 minutes, so I'm going to try. From the partying got worse, you know. I also ran into some friends eventually that were into some of the dark arts, and pretty sure one of them was trying to cast spells on me, which won't be the first time that happened, especially with this crazy rise of witchcraft happening, which I heavily advise against. And touching on that subject, after my parents divorced, my mom became a witch, a full practicing witch. She did the whole works. She called herself a green witch, so she was into more herbals and healing and stuff, but she was practicing witchcraft and spells. And I love them both, so my curiosity got the best of me, and I started kind of dabbling in that stuff too. Not dark, but it was at least the basics. And that brought on some interesting spiritual experiences. Like, she would do a protection spell on me, and something would be visiting me. Like, I was in Chicago and she was in Michigan, and she was like, I did a protection spell. Well, there was something in my room. There were several things, and I think that maybe something has to do with that. There was also a huge chapter of Chicago where me and an old roommate were being haunted. We were being haunted by something that was moving things around. It smelled like rotten eggs. It was just like the movies. It was like half of the movies are real. And I never realized that until I experienced it. We had doors slamming, we had growling, we had shadows where there shouldn't be shadows. This thing was haunting and taunting us and keeping us up at night. And the only thing, and like I said, I can go further into that, the only thing that got it to go away was Jesus and the prayer of Saint Michael, the archangel. So that was a huge chapter. And then, of course, partying continued. I just kept partying. I was just trying to drink the pain away. And it was dark. It got dark. Well, then in 2000, I graduated, and immediately in 2013, that same year I graduated, my grandmother dies. And my grandmother was one of the most loving, beautiful examples of the love of Jesus I've ever known. She was the most wonderful Christian woman I've ever met to this day. And I might be biased, but I think a lot of people would agree. So I packed everything and I moved back to Michigan. I moved in with my mom and my brother, and eventually both brothers. And we moved into my grandma's house. And that was hard because grandma had a certain coziness to her. But so, I know I'm going to be over 10 minutes, but please bear with me. So at that point, my mom was still into witchcraft. She was into divination. She was into cards. She was into crystals. She was into herbs. She was into spells. And that was not sustainable. Like that, it didn't really have God in it because it didn't have Jesus in it. that was interesting season. I also had a run-in with a couple people that was absolutely horrible, and I don't even know if I'm going to go into that one, because there was some I didn't feel safe, let's just say. So then my mom and I are into like some of the more spooky spiritual stuff, and in 2016, like the New Age practices, that's literally what I got so big into. Even though Jesus met me in Chicago for that first time, I still wandered off. I was the lost sheep. Like, there was a moment in Chicago where Jesus came to me, and I knew it was him. I wrote about it. I still have a journal about it. He came to set me free, and like a little lost sheep like we do, I still wandered off. And so fast forward, that was like 2012-ish, 2011. And then 2016, my mom gets sick with cancer immediately. That was like, wow. Immediately it was stage 4. I never thought, I just never thought that could happen, until it does. And so for 4 years, she was fighting cancer. We were helping her fight. She went into remission once, and but then it came back really, really bad. And it was interesting because I went through so many emotions. I was so angry at first and sad when she initially got sick. But then I watched her progression of going from bitter and witchy to reconciling with everyone, to forgiving everyone, to on her right beside her bed where she passed away, she had a cross. And that is when I knew in my heart that she made peace with God and with Jesus. I know it. I feel it so strongly in my heart. He called her home. And I know her mother, my grandmother's prayers were protecting her. So after my mom passed in 2019, I was starting to get really depressed again. Really depressed. I didn't want to live, and that I hadn't felt like that since like high school, when I was really struggling with self-image, and so that was really, really hard. But eventually there was a few moments I just started crying out to God, and I was still bitter, but I was still crying out to God, but I hadn't talked to Jesus yet. I was angry, I was sad, I got into like manifesting, excuse me, and the New Age practices even deeper. So I was trying to manifest the life of my dreams, blah, blah, blah. I would record my own meditations with my own voice and listen to it every morning. I was reading tarot cards still, but something was still off. It was just so off. So I'm almost done, I swear. So within the whole manifesting, so that's a big part of the New Age, which is basically what Matthew says, like, if you believe, ask and you shall receive. But so in 2003, I was so unhappy. I was doing everything I could or that I knew to do to keep myself happy. I was going to yoga religiously. I was getting on healthy diets as best as I could, but I was still like playing with crystals and looking for my future through cards, and I was still drinking. I was drinking wine all the time, not getting smashed, but it was just another numbing agent. So eventually the depression was catching up with me, and I decided I was gonna manifest the life of my dreams. And so I dropped everything and moved to South Carolina. I had gotten a job that was higher paying than I had ever gotten at the time. I had got my own apartment. I met someone, and I was just on top of the world. So I thought. I was still talking to God through that, and I kept telling him, if this is it, keep it, and if it's not, take it away. And he did. I got everything I wanted, but it wasn't what I needed. And everything fell apart, like crashed and burned. I lost my job, I lost my apartment, and me and that person ended up getting into a huge alcohol-induced fight, and he kicked me out. So in 2003, I was driving back in my small Kia Optima with everything I could fit in there, crammed to the very top, driving home. And the whole time, for the 2 days and a total of 13 hours driving, I was talking to God and begging for forgiveness. Like, I'm so sorry. I should have just followed you and not my own selfish ambitions. And knowing now that the desires of my heart are from him, but I didn't put him first. And I prayed a prayer that I had only prayed one other time, which was after my mom died. I prayed, I trust you, 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 I trust you. And I said that until I believed it. And when I got home, God met me with more than everything I lost. And he's fulfilling that still today. He gave me a good job, a place to live with loving people. My aunt and uncle took me in. I'm so grateful to have them. I know some people don't have family, but God will make a way. I believe that now. I see that now. I found a wonderful church, and I started going to church, and I have not felt this amount of peace in my life than I have with Jesus and with people who love him. Jesus came into my heart and changed everything. I got rebaptized, and in 2023, and everything's been changing in the best way. I am studying my Bible as much as I can and soaking up the word, and I just keep hearing, learn about spiritual gifts and tell your story. Those are the things that God has put on my heart. Keep talking is what I keep hearing from God. Keep talking. Keep talking. So this is why I wanted to tell my story. And whether or not you hook onto it or someone else does, I just have to keep talking because that's what I hear. And that's what God has put on my heart. So without further ado, My name is Hillary Sands. I'm 35. I live in Michigan, and I have had one heck of a spiritual journey and life to Jesus. So at 20 minutes, I'm so sorry. I had a feeling that this was going to happen, but I hope you enjoy, and have a blessed day, and God bless. And I guess I hope to hear from you.